The ruins were not at all what Jacob had expected. He was expecting standing but crumbling buildings, nature to be overgrown, and for nearly all signs of civilization to be intact. Instead, when they stumbled upon the fallen city, it was little more than a heap of stones sticking out of tall grass. You could still see the mortarwork of many of the stone buildings that had since nearly crumbled to dust, now merely knee to waist-high walls sticking out of the ground in patterns that seemed nearly random, time chipping away at each of them at its own pace. They set Lial and Cardi on their feet as they took in what remained of Paramon. Nicola whistled loudly. "Wow, this place has seen better days," he remarked. "That's for sure," Jacob agreed. "I doubt we're going to be finding much of use here, but there's no harm in looking," Nicola replied. Lial nodded as her eyes carefully examined the stone decay. "Why don't we split up and search? That way we can cover more ground," she suggested. "But I don't really know what we're looking for," Jacob said, making Nicola raise a hand to his chin. "Anything that might lead us to answers about these creatures, the money, or maybe even Capri," she explained. Hardy yipped in affirmation as Jacob nodded in understanding. They spent several hours combing the ruins, but with little success. They found one somewhat intact building that had no ceiling, but several books were preserved in a turned-over bookshelf inside. The problem was they couldn't read any of them. Frustrated but determined, the three returned to their search, remaining fruitless through what would normally be lunchtime and into the afternoon. Once the sun began to fall from the sky, Jacob heard Nicola call for them. "Hey, you guys! I found something! Come on, let's get a look at it together," he called as he came closer. He waited to see that they'd heard him before leading them off toward some overgrown woods near the fallen city's edge. Jacob dusted himself off and followed at a quick walking pace with Lial, glad to be finished going through old ruins like an archaeologist looking for artifacts. The ruined stone path set in the ground was already overgrown with grass and weeds, but as they crossed the line of trees into the forest, the path became even more broken and fragmented. Tree roots stuck up from under the stones and wildflowers were barely surviving, choked out by the tall grass under the tree canopy. It wasn't more than a few minutes before the ruined path brought them to a large clearing in the forest that caught their attention for many reasons, the most prominent of which being a large stone fountain in the center. Its highest basin stood taller than Jacob, but what was truly notable about the fountain was above even that. Floating, centered above the tallest basin, was a strange green crystal or gemstone set in a golden star. It just hovered there, shining brightly in the slowly fading sunlight. It immediately took Jacob's attention, and he noticed that, so he decided to take pains to examine the rest of the area. He instantly noticed something amiss. There was no grass at all in the clearing. No weeds, no flowers, seemingly nothing at all. The broken stone path continued past the fountain a short way, but ended abruptly. Jacob couldn't tell what made the fountain run, but despite all the ruined buildings in town and a few steps away, this fountain seemed in pristine condition and was still pouring water from one layered basin to the next.